Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we proudly provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to our first episode of The Business Show, which has been a long time in the making. So if you've been following us since the beginning of time, you know we used to have a business show, and then we retired it for a little while because now we're back with an even better show. So joining me is the co-host of our show. He's really the whole brains behind the operation. He's been my mentor and friend for a long time. His name is Al Cini, and he is a business leader. He's got significant experience when it comes to project leadership, team performance, and organizational development. He is a co-creator of Profit for Teams, and he is someone who's always on the top of what is going on in the world. So let's welcome him today to join me for our pilot episode, and we'll get the show started. Mr. Al Cini, hello, hello.
Dr. Kerbeck, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clearly. Where are you joining us from today?
From South Jersey, not too far from Philadelphia.
So you're in the good US of A. So I'm glad that you're here with me today. And for our audience, we're very good friends, and we actually are excited to do this program. So Al, it's been a while. It's been a minute, hasn't it?
It's been more than a minute, and I think it's long overdue. I mean, there were one of the things I miss really about doing a business show is that you get to talk to really engaging people with lots of professional experience, and they share their stories. And like you said in your intro, it's an opportunity for people to learn from people's achievements and maybe mistakes. And that just makes the world a better place.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to get into a number of topics today. And so people can find us here on USA Global TV and Radio and subscribe to our channels on YouTube as well as many of other places. So Al, where do you feel that you're most aligned and centered when it comes to business? What's your core area of expertise?
I'm really glad you asked that question. I thank you. You always ask great questions. How do you get people? It's an old quote. I'm trying to remember who, but the only way to get people to do what you want them to do is to make them want to do it. Yeah, you have to get them to a place where they're actually self-motivated. And so that whole concept of leadership, and and I almost hate to call it that because leadership is a very subtle service process, and getting people inspired to do things. I like that word, inspiration. Getting people inspired to do things is kind of a passion of mine. And sometimes it takes patience, and often it takes a lot of tolerance. But you generally get much better results when everybody on your team feels like they're part of it, feels like they're engaged in it, feels like they know where the team is taking them, and wants to help the team to get there. And so that's my area. And in our conversations when we start the program with guests, I plan to ask a lot of questions around how do you manage your team? How do you, I hate to use that word manage, how do you inspire your team? How do you get your team to do the things that need to be done in order to make your effort successful? And I'm looking forward to those conversations. I always learn from them.
I agree with you, Alan. Sometimes we're just a team of one, right? We have to motivate and inspire ourselves and make sure that we have a goal and we've got a direction. And so one of the things I want to start off with right away, and by the way, there's no script, so Al has no idea what I'm going to ask him, and I have no idea what I'm going to ask him. But one thing I want to start off with is, when we have a challenge, I really believe that we take our emotions and we acknowledge them, and then we put them to the side and say, okay, what is the solution? And so many of the people watching today or listening or watching later, they may be business owners. What are your thoughts about what I just shared about acknowledging emotion and then putting it aside so that we can actually go ahead and find a solution?
It's funny you should ask that way. Just recently took a seminar. Actually, it was a pretty large group of people gathered around the subject of artificial intelligence. And what excited me about it was the approach that the instructor took. It was very in-depth. And the conversations with AI based on the prompts that were given as part of the courseware, for people who haven't worked with artificial intelligence, the amazing thing about it is you talk to it. You can actually, for some of the AI platforms, open up your microphone and actually say things to it. I use Copilot. A lot of people use ChatGPT. There's a growing community of people use Elon Musk's Grok. And what I liked about this webinar experience that I attended, though, was that they encouraged us to ask questions about feelings and to talk about feelings. And when you do that, the AI agent, whoever it is you're actually using, whatever platform you're using, begins to engage you on that subject and starts asking you questions like, when you get this work done, how will you feel about that? And it reminds me, and I think it reminds all of us, that it's emotions that motivate people. Feelings are what make people do things. Sometimes it's a feeling of fear of missing a deadline or getting yelled at. The most powerful motivators are really, though, the fundamental motivators that drive us to accomplish our goals, whatever they might be, and to show up every day along the way and not miss any of the steps involved in getting there. So I don't know whether that was the answer you were looking for, but feelings, coming to grips with your feelings, understanding why you feel the way you do and how that might be holding you back. And then more importantly, I think visualizing how you will feel when you overcome that. You're trying to have that feeling beforehand and then use that feeling as a promise of a reward for work that you get done. I think that's ultimately where the rubber meets the road.
Thanks for sharing that, Al. You and I collectively have interviewed thousands. I know I've interviewed probably 9,000 people, and you've interviewed thousands of people.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think what we find collectively when we're talking to business owners is they may have a plan, they may have a long-term goal, they may even have a vision board and things on there, but yet to do what it takes to get to where they want to go, they don't want to do the steps. Or sometimes, and I'm going to include myself because I was there too, we get in our own way and we come up with excuses. And then we think, well, maybe it's not meant to be. Well, maybe I shouldn't be in business. Maybe I should go back to corporate or go to corporate. So let's talk a little bit about it. And I also want to bring in artificial intelligence at some point, because I think that sometimes as business owners, we're relying on AI to do certain things and think that we're really winning. We're really accomplishing something tremendous. So let's start with our business owners who are out there today who have put a lot of money and time into what they're doing, but they're just not getting to where they want to go, either quick enough or even at all. What are your thoughts about what we can share with them?
Well, if you're people want, and that is a big if there is a market for what you do, if you offer a solution that people find value in, then usually often the hesitation is around getting the word out. Like, for some reason, sometimes people have in their heads the thought that somehow this wonderful, if you build it, they will come. I remember that old movie. Well, it's not true. If you can build it and they won't come until they know about it, they have to know about it. And, getting the word out, I think, is a very important part of that whole process. And that's one of the reasons why we are working together on the Business Talk Show, because we're an opportunity platform for people who might want a little practice with getting the word out, and actually a great opportunity to get in front of your audience, which I believe is now 100,000 plus strong, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's just on one channel. Thank you very much.
Well, there are an awful lot of people out there that are looking to learn from the people that you talk to, the 9,000, the nine or 90,000 people that you've spoken with. Every one of them has been a life lesson. And that's what we're going to be doing. I mean, that's so when we ask questions, sure, it's about what do you do and what difference does that make? But it's also, how does it make the people that you serve feel? What is it that motivates them to buy from you? How do you tap into that? How do you articulate how you feel when you deliver it? How does it feel to satisfy a customer? And these motivational moments are what draw us into a positive future of accomplishment and success. That's the payoff, I think, for most people. It's not money, although money is supposed to come along with it. Usually does. It's not the money. I mean, you do it for the love of it, don't you?
Absolutely. Yes. And I do want to say hello to one of your friends there on LinkedIn, Stephen Collette. We've come a long way, Mr. Cini. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
You've also got another comment. Hello, Alcini. I give a solution to a problem. There we go. Next level coaching. And that's Robert J. Moore. Thanks for being here.
That's great.
So one of the things I want to talk about is visibility. So I know people today who own businesses and they are not on social media. They don't do advertising. They're not in the public domain. And for whatever reason, they are literally putting the success of their business to drive-bys. So people driving by and going, whoa, look at that. Why don't I give them a call? So what are your thoughts, Al? Because I know when it comes to social media, you're on some platforms, you might not be on all of them. And so maybe you're picking and choosing where it is that you're sharing your information.
Well, I am. And I really, I'll tell you the truth. Honestly, Dr. Jacalyn, you and I have been communicating in person, on the phone, or every now and then we get together, and those kinds of meetings are really valuable. But to get the word out, you really need to elevate your game. And elevating your game means getting in front of people that you don't know, strangers, and offering your value proposition, telling people what it is you've got to offer, and having them respond to that, react to it, maybe even buy it, or at a minimum, maybe refer it to somebody they know, because they recognize the problem that somebody else might have that you might be able to solve. So that's what we're going to do with the business show. We're going to give people a chance to talk about their stuff, and the challenges, the difficulties, the successes, and the difference that what they do makes for people. And I've always found those conversations to be very compelling. And at some point, I know in the program, you're going to tell everybody where they need to go to click a link to sign up for a program. Maybe now, while we have people paying attention, there you go. If you want to join us on a future episode of the business show, then these are the links. Subscribe to those channels, and there's a link, I guess, for enroll. And there's no charge, is there, Dr. Jacalyn, for appearing on the program?
We welcome everyone 3 times a year for a free interview. We can't guarantee whether they'll be banging or not, but we do offer 3 free interviews a year. And we will be putting that link up, which is usaglobaltv.com/book your session. So Al, I want to go into value. Many times when I meet with business owners, they can't succinctly share what the value is that they bring, but yet they're giving so many things away for free. So it's not understanding what your value is, and at the same time, stop giving your value away. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear fear of rejection, maybe. I mean, I don't know that I really have that right, but sometimes you imagine an objection that a prospect might have, and you respond to that rejection before they even voice it. So it's incredible how many people are actually willing to kind of bargain themselves down in advance of ever even offering something for sale, without really knowing what it is somebody might have an appetite for or how much money they might have to pay for it. And that's fear, and you've got to overcome it. I think when you look at all the time you spend to do the things you do, and the value of your time as a human being, and the value of your experience, and how you've got to where you are, you really need to price your services in a way that expresses that value in monetary terms. And that's what people are expecting. And you got to shut up after you tell them how much, and not imagine that the look on their face is you needing to lower your price to make them happy. And that, I mean, so much goes through your mind when you're encountering somebody and quoting a number. And, you really have to have kind of the courage of your convictions and hold to the number. I mean, if there's a bargain to be made or a deal to be made, let them do the talking and find out what it is. I mean, a no is a no. You got to accept that. You got to walk away.
Yeah, great points. Now, I just want to share that for me, I really think a no is a not now or not yet, or I'm not ready. But that doesn't mean that we have to invest any more time in that particular prospect. And, something that I just want to share, during the pandemic, I became certified in meditation. And during this meditation process, we had various speakers come and share things with us. And what I learned from it was so exciting, Al, is that one of the people was charging $50,000 for her services, and people were paying for it. And I thought, what could she possibly be selling for $50,000? And so the point is that someone, at least one person, saw that there was value and was willing to pay that price. So I think as business owners, what we do is we actually talk ourselves out of our own value. And so if someone does immediately say, oh, okay, where do I sign up? It's like, oh, okay, well, let me drop my price. Well, let me throw in a set of Ginsu knives, and let me throw in a year of, we just start throwing all the things in, but maybe somebody really needs time to process it and figure out, how can I make this work?
No, that, I think that's a great point. So if you start at the beginning, and, Stephen Collette, hi, Steve, hi again. Hopefully you haven't tuned out. There he is. Welcome. It's great being in touch with some of my old friends, and I'm very grateful for the many that I have. Stephen, if Stephen wanted to appear on the Business Talk Show, all he needs to do is sign up, and the advantage, what he learns from that, what he gets from that, is the opportunity to represent himself as the thought leader that I know Stephen is, and then possibly use that to create the kinds of relationships that form professional bonds with customers, clients. And so in a way, I mean, you mentioned Ginsu knives, and I remember them. I'm old enough to remember them. I'm also old enough to remember Hickory Farms. Dr. Jacalyn, do you remember Hickory Farms in the Cherry Hill Mall?
Yes, I do, Al. Thanks for taking me back there.
It's a history. So what they do is offer little pieces. They don't offer a whole cheese wheel. They offer little pieces. They're gone now, I guess, but they offered little pieces of cheese in an outstretched arm outside the storefront as you were walking along the mall, and you tried the cheese, and if you liked it, you went in and bought more. They didn't give you more. That was an indication that there was value inside the store, and that was a proof point. So you can't give the whole thing away, and that's not right, obviously, but you can give away the little pieces of advice, the little insights, the small gifts of knowledge that you've accumulated over the years, to communicate to people, to prove to people that you're worth talking to. And then after that, the conversation is about what you do for a living commercially and how somebody might be able to afford it in order to solve a problem they have.
Absolutely. And by the way, we do have on the screen right now, if you are interested in being a guest on any of our shows, go to the link, usaglobaltv.com/book your session. It's in the show notes. Al, we're talking about value, giving value. And I think that's really important as business owners. Just like with this show, we have to give value to people before we could expect that they're going to do something in return. So what we're going to be doing on a regular basis is bringing in some guests who are experts in certain areas, and they're going to be able to share with us their knowledge and expertise. And one of our upcoming guests, I actually met through the Wharton Executive Education Program. His name is David Nicholson, and he's an expert when it comes to AI. So I'm looking forward to having him for our next show, which is next week, actually.
That's great. Now, the normal rotation on the show is every other week, is it? Or are we doing this?
It is, but we're doing this
Okay,
pilot show in advance of our first guest. So
that's perfect. I'm looking forward to that conversation because I've already talked about AI, and I know it's a very hot topic. And it's a funny thing. People will say things that they really don't mean, like, I don't believe in social media, or AI, I don't trust AI, whatever that might mean. I mean, there are an awful lot of people, I think, who close the door ahead of themselves, not realizing that there might be something very rewarding on the other side of that door. So one of the lessons that I've always found very valuable is a lesson of not prejudging an opportunity to the point where you reject a genuine opportunity that might actually do you some good. There are an awful lot of people who, for whatever reason, mostly fear, slam doors ahead of themselves. The AI conversation, I'm counting on that being an opportunity for the people who tune in to learn that it's not something to be afraid of, that it really is an opportunity. I found it very eye-opening if you approach it in a certain way. If you use it as a super Google, you won't get as much out of it. But if you kind of develop a relationship with it, and I'm not saying marry it, I mean, there are a lot of goofball headlines about people who get a little bit too emotionally attached to technology, not to put it any other way. So there's lots of that, but I'm not talking about that. There is a way to get artificial intelligence to understand you to a level where it can actually give you the kind of advice you need to get done the things you need to get done, and to get them done properly and correctly. I'm currently using artificial intelligence to kind of review my architectural plans for developing the software for ProFit for Teams. And it's been, I use Copilot. It's been extremely helpful, very helpful. And it's available. I mean, speaking as a guy who, and I know you can relate to this, you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you got a goofball idea. Well, all your friends are asleep, and they should be. But there's Copilot. I call him Bob. And I have these conversations at any time during the day or night. And you always get back something that opens your eyes a little bit, maybe opens your mind a little bit. It's a discovery process. That's how I've used it. And, I think an awful lot of people are afraid of it to the point where they're not taking advantage of it. And that's unfortunate.
Well, one of the things that I took away from David's presentation, which I don't want to steal his thunder, but one of his slides is reminiscing about when email was something that people didn't want to do. Oh, I don't need email. I don't need a computer. And so it's kind of similar to AI. And I use AI all the time, and I sort of have a love-hate relationship with it because it gives information. And even though I know how I'm going to ask it, I ask it things differently than I did when I first started. It doesn't always come up with the correct answer. And even in filling out forms, I will ask it questions and it has the wrong information. And I'll write, you're supposed to be the expert in this area, and you're coming back with information that's incorrect. And it always apologizes and says, but we don't want to focus on this. I'm like, we do want to focus on this. We want to focus on why you, the expert, don't have the information. So one of the things I took away from today's session at Wharton, we had another expert in on AI, and I'm just paraphrasing because I haven't had a lot of time to digest all of it. But with artificial intelligence, there's been a number of surveys done by the Boston Consulting Group and MIT in reference to where within an organization AI is being used and how it's being used. And my takeaway from what I learned today was the fact that many times the frontline people in a business are using AI for various tasks. And so when looking at, are they now more productive because they have more time to do other things? The answer is typically not as productive because they're not being told what they're supposed to do with the time they have available. And then in a leadership position, people are using AI, but they're using it for task driven types of things, as opposed to replacing humans. It's almost like, well, I've got a whole checklist of things. Let me get AI to do this busy work for me, or work that I would normally sub out. Let me get AI to do it for me. So what are your thoughts about that based on the conference that you attended?
I'm thinking that if you approach artificial intelligence from a place of curiosity, you'll get a lot more out of it than if you approach it from, and keeping in mind that what some of the things you get out of it are not things that you necessarily want to do verbatim. You do need to inspect the responses you get. You need to try to understand where, if you follow AI's advice, where it's actually going to lead you. Because you're right, sometimes it gets things wrong. But if you approach it from, in my experience, a place of curiosity where you're asking it questions that you don't know the answer to, and you're asking it to provide you general advice in certain specific areas. My area is usually technology. And I think you get great results from it. I think you get very interesting conversation, even if you don't necessarily get the rock rigid truth out of it. And, like any relationship, you've got to listen to what people say and then pass it through a filter inside of your brain before you convert it to action. But I want to digress a little bit, because you mentioned you're going to Wharton. And one of the things that's always impressed me about you, Dr. Jacalyn, is that you're a lifelong learner. A lot of people say they are, but you really do put your money where your mouth is when you say that. So talk a little bit about what what drew you to that. What is, tell us maybe a little bit about the course and why did you do it? And is it paying off for you?
Well, thanks for asking, Al. Actually, it is a year-long course. It's called Chief Strategy Officer, and it's through Wharton and their executive education program. And I became aware of it on Instagram. It was actually an Instagram ad that kept popping up. And I thought, why does this keep popping up? I sign on and then there it is. And then it just disappeared. So I thought that was interesting, because then I was wondering why it didn't pop up. So when I finally had to go and find it, I started reading about it. And I thought, it makes a lot of sense for me, because we have a global network and I want to expand our network into other countries. So I need to have a strategy. So I think it's been very rewarding. The people I've met and the case studies that we have, and also the capstone project that we're working on, it's second to none. So I'm really grateful that, first of all, I was accepted. Second of all, I could afford it. And third of all, I have the time, because I mentioned it is a year-long program and there is work to be done every week.
It brings us back to the conversation we just had. It's pricey. It's not for you to share how much it costs, but nobody ever said, if that's too much, we'll lower it for you. Did they? I mean, they know the value of what they've got, don't they? So why would they ever say, you know what, Dr. Jacalyn, I can see that look on your face, and how about if we give it to you for half price? I mean, right off the bat, they're telling you the course isn't worth the money when they do that.
Right. Well, and also, as far as I look, it is the Wharton School of Business, which is one of the top business schools in the world. So if they were offering a course for $99, I don't know that that would go in alignment with their branding, because the people they're going to get, the professors and the people who are going to be sharing their expertise, they're going to be at a certain level of knowledge and education. So I think that just being able to be part of this program is truly a gift. And I'm looking forward to being able to share what it is that I'm learning to help my business grow, and as well as help my clients grow their businesses.
That's great. And you're not doing it for the certificate, are you? You're doing it for the knowledge.
Well, because once you're enrolled in this program, the Chief Strategy Officer, I'm not a Wharton alumni. I actually have to take, I think it's a 2-year program to become an alumni. So believe me, that's on my list next, because I am excited to continue learning. And of course, I do love all of the awards and certificates. I already have a master's and a doctorate, but it's really the journey. It's about what you learn along the way that you can then use to help other people.
which is a lesson for the people watching our program. It may seem like a diversion. It may not feel like it directly contributes to what it is you're trying to accomplish in your life or in your work. But these are areas that you should explore.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm looking at growing our business internationally. So, chief strategy officer really fits in really well. So, I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be exploring in some future episodes when we look at, did they really do that? Did that company really decide to go in that direction? So there
That
are a
is,
lot of situations where we hear things or we see it on social media, and it's kind of like, wow, that company just took their brand and just threw it aside and didn't care. So Al, tee that up a little bit because it really relates to what you do with Ahead for Business.
we had sort of talked about the possibility of launching a program called Ahead for Business, where we explore the kinds of biases and blind spots that cause sometimes major corporations to make misjudgments. I don't want to call it a mistake, and I'm not a judgy kind of a person, but if they had it to do over again, I have a feeling that Jaguar might have rebranded their automobile a little differently than they did, because it had a really, really adverse effect on their sales. If they had to do it over again, maybe Budweiser would have rethought their Bud Light campaign that completely torpedoed a major, highly recognized brand and hurt it in the marketplace for years. I believe they're still struggling with that. So what we want to do, I think, and every now and then, rather than make a show about it, I think we'll have an Ahead for a segment or episode of the Business Talk Show where we explore a mistake that a company made. And for people who are listening who may have been involved in some of those mistakes, we can block out your face. You could wear a mask, but it would be great to have you on the program to talk about what might have been going on in the decision-making process that makes it possible for very intelligent, seasoned professionals to do unbelievably risky things and get jammed up as a result of it. So that's Ahead for Business, and it's about the psychology of business and the psychology of business decisions and decision making. And we'll start with a mistake, and then we'll talk about how in the future we can all learn from that and avoid them.
Absolutely, because it's all about learning, sharing, and caring. And so I've made a number of mistakes in business, and I know that at some point we all, if you're out there really putting yourself out there, you're really visible, and you're looking at what opportunities are available, we can make mistakes, and they can be key learning opportunities. And so we want to share them with our audience.
Now, that's the fun of it for me. And I know it's the fun of it for you. It's a good thing.
Yeah,
maybe we can get the guy upstairs who's hammering something. Maybe sounds like a business owner to me. Maybe we can get him on a program.
Yeah, maybe we can.
If he's on the program, he won't be making that noise.
Absolutely. So, Al, I also want to encourage people who have real stories to come forward and share them with us, because I feel like as humans, we actually have a responsibility to help one another. And I think it's also fun to share stories. I know sometimes people feel embarrassed about decisions that they made, but if you can help someone else not make that mistake, imagine someone's doing the same thing for you. So before we wrap up for today, is there a story that you'd like to share? And again, it's unscripted. Is there anything that comes to mind for you that you'd like to share with our audience?
That's not too terribly embarrassing?
Yeah, or if really embarrassing, that'd be even better.
Really embarrassing. Okay, now I mentioned earlier that it's always a fun thing to approach opportunities like AI from a place of curiosity. And I like to consider myself a curious person. When I ask questions, hung up. There we go. Did you hear?
No, you were stuck. You were frozen for a minute. Keep going.
Okay. So going back to my earlier days working at DuPont, I was software engineer developing software for a particular application inside DuPont Photo Systems, working in Delaware. And we had just opened a new data center in the complex. And somebody had to come by, field service, to repair something. And so they asked me if I wouldn't mind letting that field service person in. And this is a brand new data center, keep in mind. So it wasn't fully populated yet. Most of the equipment in it was just being installed. And they asked me if I wouldn't mind babysitting, essentially, this field service engineer who was there to fix a broken machine. I said, sure. So I let the guy in, walked him into the data center, and then I didn't have anything to do. And that's not a good place for me. So here's what I did. I went looking around, and in the middle of the floor of this data center, I saw a big black box with Liebert on it, written on it, and no controls. It was just a cabinet. And it's a new data center, and I figured that they're in the process of installing it. And I noticed on the floor, there was a little plastic lens that fit inside of a little hinged door on this big black box. And behind that was a light bulb. So when the light bulb would come on, it would say something inside this little box. So I figured, okay, that little thing fits right inside this space. I should just put it back. So I lifted the little door and I picked up that little piece of plastic from the floor that fit in that little space, and I pushed it in, and I heard a click, and the entire data center went down. All of it, everything, all the electricity came off. Everything shut down. That was the emergency shutdown for the power supply for the whole data center. And there I was, there are people working in this data center. It wasn't commissioned yet, but there I was with my finger in the hole while everybody was wondering why all of a sudden nothing was working. And it was my fault. So,
Wow.
yeah, I don't, and there are probably a couple of people watching who know me from those days. I'd love to hear from them because it's something I remember. What I remember most about that is that from then on, it was never ask Al to escort anybody into the data center. Yeah.
So basically, it sounds like this happened. You didn't plan it out. It was an accident. And then how did it impact you as a result of that?
I'll never forget the story. And it was among the stupider things I've done, not the only one, I'm sorry to say. But I have an impulsive kind of it's funny, especially in my line of work, which is technology. And so that's very deliberate and very planful. I have this kind of impulsive, playful side that I'm not always in complete control of. And that was an example of it kind of getting away from me. And DuPont was a pretty big client. I mean, that's a big company. And here I am in the middle of turning off their brand new data center not by accident. I mean, it would be hard for me to explain that my finger accidentally ended up inside that little hole and accidentally pushed that little plastic button. So no, it was deliberate, and I got away with it. But I mean, they didn't fire me or anything. But I do remember that moment, and I remember the consequences of it. So if that's in a head for business moment.
That's a good one. And to be fair, I'll share one that happened to me when I was in corporate. I worked on this big deal that was in technology for probably 3 years. And it was the day when the client was signing the contract. And the client was a friend of mine. She became a friend of mine through this process. And her SVP was going to be signing the contract. So we were all gathered around, including my boss, and we were watching this person sign the contract. And as soon as he signed the contract, I threw my arms around my friend. I was like, oh my gosh, congratulations, we did it. And she just stood there stoic. Her eyes flew open, and she told me to move away from her. And afterwards, she said, I can't believe that you did that. And I can't believe that I did it either, but it was very authentic because we had worked.
It was an authentic, genuine, real moment. How old were you? Do you remember how old you were?
Yeah. So I retired in 2020. So maybe it was in, I don't know, 2015 or 2014 or something. It was a real moment, but I learned that I had to put on a mask and be in a certain role. And so that was a message that I never forgot.
I'll tell you the truth. They're really memorable. I mean, there may have been somebody in that room who saw the way you reacted and came away with a completely different impression. It was a moment of exuberance and accomplishment, and you had it coming. And if I don't know if I want to play the game of business if I have to wear a mask.
Yeah, it's true. And I'll share one more because I think this one is even better in a different role. I've only had four jobs in corporate really that were my whole career. And this is in a different role that was later, but I was calling on a consumer products company and I used a lot of their products. So I went to New York for the presentation. We'd spent a lot of time, my team and I, working on the presentation, and we were pitching against other companies. And so in my suitcase, I had all of these products from this company. And so before I presented, I had set them all up on a display. And I kind of had them like almost like if you were going to a storefront, you would see everything, but I had something over it. So I did the pitch. And at the very end, because everyone was wondering what's underneath there, I moved the thing that was on top of it. And I was like, and I'm your biggest brand ambassador. I use your product. And I went on and on and on. And it was crickets, nothing. And then the feedback I got later was because I had the products there that I appeared desperate. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? By the way, I ceased to use those products anymore, but it was interpreted in a completely different way. And so that was another key learning.
And you remember that. It hurt.
Yeah, it hurt.
I mean, you
really
definitely,
badly.
those some moments of especially embarrassment, which was mine. They hurt, and you don't forget those things. I mean, eventually you find a way to laugh at them, and you're thankful that you got through them. But those are feelings, Doc. I mean, we all like to think in business place, but they belong everywhere in business.
So what will we leave our audience with when they want to express themselves? We've just given 3 examples of stories where, we shared how we felt and things happened by accident, or our intention was honorable, but yet it wasn't received that way.
Well, we want those stories because I think an awful lot of people are probably ruminating over something they imagine was a terrible, unrecoverable mistake that may, in fact, years ago have derailed them and prevented them from getting what they want today. And I think what you need to do is forgive yourself, get past all that, realize mostly these moments are funny and not really moments. They're not really tragedies. They're mostly comical. And you get past that and you just realize I still have a list of things that I want to accomplish. Don't let any of those, what you imagine were mistakes, inform you in a negative way about the things that are yet to come. Be open to the fact that you still have mistakes to make, and don't worry about that. And so, from my point of view, I think if we can teach people to be curious and courageous, and if they can learn from some of the stories that our guests are going to tell, that it's okay to move forward and every now and then make a mistake, I think it's a good place to leave people.
I agree with you because I think that none of it is really a mistake. It all takes us down the path that we're supposed to go. So if you hadn't have shut down the whole center, if I hadn't been a brand ambassador, we might have taken different directions in our careers than we have. And yet we sit here today as business owners and we've got a lot of collective experience between us, and we're able to laugh about what's happened in the past.
Yeah, well, I know we're coming up to a close. I did want to say that my partner in this, Lisa Manioki, and I have developed what I believe is a very, very significant team building experience, team development experience called ProFit for Teams. And the web link, I think, is under my name, but it's pro-fit4teams.com. And I hope some of the people that are listening will go visit and give me a call if you have any questions about it. Sorry, Doc,
for our audio audience only, we do have the website up onto the screen, so you can find it by going to the link pro-fit4teams.com. And hello to Lisa Manioki. All right, Al, who is a good client for you, and what are some other ways people can reach you?
Managers of teams, HR directors focused on talent development, rather than the bread and butter of HR like compensation. People who know that people make a difference, those are the people that should give me a call, because I think what we have could be very interesting to them, and it works, which I'm proud to say.
All right, fantastic. And we have your LinkedIn up as well if people want to contact you. And it's very easy because it's your name, Al Cini, ALCINI.
Right.
Well, Mr. Cini, that's the first episode, our pilot episode in the can. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Great opportunity. And I guess I'll see you next Thursday.
All right. See you next Thursday. Bye, Al. To any of you who would like to be a guest on our show, obviously the business show is what we're on today, but we do have 60 different shows. We also have 3 different languages, French, English, and German. We are looking for show hosts in other countries who speak other languages, and you can get in touch with us through our website, which is usaglobaltv.com, and the link is actually in the notes. And my contact details are in the notes as well. So thank you so much for being here. If you are watching anywhere but YouTube, please do go over to YouTube, because they give us real information about demographics. And so then we know what content you're watching, and we want to be able to provide what it is that you're learning from. So it's USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck are our 2 YouTube channels. All right. Thank you again. We're going to sign off. We're going over to our sponsors, and we'll look forward to seeing you on our next show. Bye for now.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the listening mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the listening mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day. Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, only here on USA Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.